A big fight began in late 2025. This fight was between some of America's most important universities and the federal government. The government introduced a new plan. It was called the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education. This compact was an important agreement. With this plan, universities could get special access to money from the government. This meant more federal funding for their work. However, to get this extra money, universities had to agree to many new rules. These rules came from President Donald Trump's administration. They wanted universities to make many changes. The changes touched many parts of university life. For example, universities would need to change how they accept new students. They also had to think about what subjects they teach. The government felt these changes were important for better education. But the compact started a big discussion. Many people worried about academic freedom. This means universities should be free to study, teach, and research without being told what to do by outside forces, like the government. They also worried about how much power the government should have over what happens inside universities. Some very well-known universities started to speak against the plan. These included schools like the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, often called MIT, and Brown University. They believed the government's plan went too far. They saw it as the government trying to control their independence. This situation was more than just a money problem. It was about what universities are for. It was about who decides what is taught and studied in America's top schools. This debate would help decide the future of education in the country. It was a major conflict about freedom in learning and teaching and how much the government should be involved. 2. What the government wants. The government's plan, called the Compact for Academic Excellence in Higher Education, had many strong demands for universities. 3 important officials, Education Secretary Linda McMahon, May Mailman, a White House senior advisor, and Vincent Haley, the director of the Domestic Policy Council, signed this document. Universities had to agree to many new rules if they wanted to receive federal money and other benefits. This plan wanted to change how colleges worked in America. First, the compact asked universities to change how they choose students. Universities could not use a student's race or sex when deciding who gets accepted or who gets a job. They also had to make all students take standardized tests like the SAT. Another rule was about international students. Universities could only allow a certain number of international students, no more than 15% of all undergraduate students. Also, no more than 5% of students could come from any single country. The plan also had rules about money. Universities had to promise not to raise tuition costs for 5 years. Tuition is the money students pay to study at a college. They also had to share information about how much money their graduates earned after school for each study program. If a university had a very large amount of money, it even had to offer free tuition for students studying science. A big part of the plan was about what students and professors could say and think on campus. Universities had to make sure many different political ideas were welcome and shared. They could not let one way of thinking be too strong or punish other ideas. Also, universities could not take sides on political events. They had to stay neutral on such issues. The plan also said universities must use specific definitions for male and female. These definitions were based on a person's biological body and its reproductive parts. This meant universities would only recognize two types of gender. Finally, the government made clear what would happen if universities did not follow these rules. If a university broke any part of the compact, it would face very serious problems. It would lose all money from the federal government. This included important money for student aid, research grants, and other contracts. Universities would also have to give back all the federal funds they had received that year. This showed how serious the government was about its demands and the consequences for non-compliance. 3. Two universities say no. The government's plan was clear, but two important universities decided not to accept it. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology, known as MIT, was the first to say no. On October 10, 2025, MIT's president, Sally Kornbluth, sent a letter. She explained that MIT could not agree to the plan. President Kornbluth said that money for science should be given only because of how good the science is. It should not be given for political reasons. She worried that the government's new rules would stop people from speaking freely. She also said it would take away MIT's freedom as a school. These two things, free speech and independence, were very important to MIT. The White House quickly responded to MIT's decision. A spokesperson for the White House criticized MIT. She said that any university not taking this chance was not helping its students or their parents. She felt they were listening to radical left-wing bureaucrats instead. The spokesperson added that good science needs places where people can think freely and look for truth, and not where merit is lost. Just 5 days later, Brown University also said no to the plan. Brown's president, Christina Paxson, wrote her own letter on October 15. She explained that the new compact would hurt academic freedom. This means professors and students would not be free to teach and study as they should. President Paxson was also worried about Brown University's independence. She believed the plan would stop the university from running itself properly. This would make it hard for Brown to do its main job. She stressed that money for research must be given based on the good ideas and possible impact of the research. If funding was given for other reasons, it would harm everyone in America. Brown's decision was important because the university had made a different deal with the government earlier that year. That deal, from July, had protected Brown's right to decide what it taught and what its professors said. But the new compact did not have this important protection. Both MIT and Brown stood firm against the government's new demands. Their decisions showed they would protect what they believed was most important for higher education. 4. More schools must choose. After MIT and Brown University said no to the compact, 7 other important universities remained quiet. These schools were Dartmouth College, the University of Arizona, the University of Pennsylvania, the University of Southern California, the University of Texas at Austin, the University of Virginia, and Vanderbilt University. For some time, they did not tell the public if they would accept or reject the special deal offered by President Trump's administration. Their silence showed they were facing very difficult decisions about money and independence. Inside many of these schools, people started to act. Students and professors spoke out against the government's plan. They held protests and meetings. For example, professors at the University of Virginia strongly voted to oppose the deal. They asked their university leaders to say no. The University of Arizona's faculty also voted against the compact, urging rejection. At Vanderbilt University, the faculty senate met quickly and passed a resolution opposing the compact. Professor Jonathan Gilligan, who helped with the resolution, mentioned that the government should not force organizations to give up their rights for money. Student governments from several of these universities also joined together. They released a shared statement. They said they were against the compact's rules and wanted their schools to refuse government interference in their academic freedom. Amidst this, the University of Texas at Austin showed a different reaction. Its leaders seemed interested in the compact. Kevin Eltife, who is the chairman of the UT System Board of Regents, publicly stated that the system was honored that UT Austin was chosen. He said they enthusiastically look forward to reviewing the compact details. This positive stance from Texas leadership was unique among the invited universities. This situation became even bigger. On October 12, 2025, President Trump expanded the compact's reach. He used his social media to announce that all universities in America were now invited to join. Before this, only 9 specific schools had received the offer. News reports confirmed that the compact was now open to every college and university in the country. This move by the administration created much more pressure. It meant that all schools, not just a select few, now had to consider if they would accept the compact's rules to get federal money. This expansion turned a targeted offer into a wider challenge for the entire American higher education system. 5. A year of problems. The new plan for universities, known as the Compact, was not a sudden idea. It was the result of a year-long period of increasing problems between American universities and the government. Throughout 2025, President Donald Trump's administration had often criticized higher education, accusing universities of promoting certain ideologies. The difficulties began early in the year. In February, the government reduced federal support for the indirect costs of research. These funds help universities maintain their laboratories and staff. This reduction immediately put financial pressure on many institutions. Soon after, in March and April, the administration froze billions of dollars in federal funding for several major universities. This included Harvard, Brown, Princeton, Cornell, and Northwestern. The government cited concerns about anti-Semitism on campuses, diversity programs, and university policies regarding transgender athletes. Harvard later took legal action, and in September, a judge ruled the freeze unconstitutional. However, the administration promptly announced its plan to appeal. Facing severe financial pressure from these freezes, 3 Ivy League universities, the University of Pennsylvania, Columbia University, and Brown University, reached settlements with the administration between July and September. These agreements allowed them to get their frozen research money back. In exchange, the universities had to agree to a range of new policies. For example, Columbia committed to paying a substantial sum and making changes to its diversity programs and Middle Eastern studies curriculum. Penn agreed to specific regulations concerning transgender athletes in sports. Brown accepted definitions for male and female for sports and facilities and pledged money for workforce development. In August, President Trump signed an executive order titled Improving Oversight of Federal Grant-Making. This order dramatically changed how federal research grants would be awarded. It gave senior political appointees in the government much more direct control over approving or denying grants, moving away from relying only on expert reviews. These appointees were instructed to ensure grants supported the president's policy priorities. The order also stated that federal funding could not be used for initiatives that promote anti-American values, and that grants could be ended at any time for convenience. This move caused widespread concern, with many fearing it would prioritize political agendas over scientific merit in research funding. Notably, Yale University and Dartmouth College were the only 2 Ivy League institutions whose federal funding was not frozen by the Trump administration during this challenging year. This sequence of events highlighted a deep and growing conflict that reshaped the environment for universities across the nation over 2025. 6. 2 sides of the story. The government's new plan for universities brought a big discussion across the country. There are 2 main sides with very different ideas about it. Many people support the plan. They believe that universities have lost their way and need to change. President Donald Trump and others say that schools have become too liberal, focusing on specific political ideas instead of teaching truth. They argue that these institutions often promote ideas that are not aligned with traditional American values. Supporters also think that universities do not allow enough different opinions on campus. They say that conservative students and teachers often feel unwelcome or even punished for their views. These supporters want universities to make important, common-sense reforms to fix these problems. They point out that studies show a large number of university professors are liberal, which they believe makes it hard for other ideas to be heard fairly. They also feel that programs meant to help with diversity have gone too far, sometimes using race in ways that are not fair. Many also worry about a rise in anti-Semitism at schools and feel universities have not done enough to protect Jewish students from hate. So, supporters see the government's plan as a necessary step to make universities more balanced, fairer, less costly, and truly focused on finding the truth for everyone. However, many others are strongly against the government's plan. They believe it is a direct attack on free speech and academic freedom, which are core values of education. Opponents say the government is trying to control what is taught and what research is done at universities. They argue that this kind of control is against the law and harms the very purpose of higher education, which needs independence. Groups like university presidents, professors, and students have spoken out loudly. They say that money for scientific research should be given based on the quality of the science and its merits, not based on political agreement or who decides in government. They feel the government is using money as a powerful tool to force universities to agree to its rules, which is unfair. Opponents also argue that many parts of the plan are unconstitutional, meaning they go against the basic laws of the country, like freedom of speech. They worry about unclear rules in the plan that could be used to stop certain ideas from being shared, creating a chilling effect. They believe that having many different viewpoints, even uncomfortable ones, helps students learn better, and that universities need to be independent to do their best work without fear. They see the plan as trying to change universities into places controlled by the government, which they say is deeply wrong and dangerous for the future of knowledge. This intense debate shows a deep disagreement about what universities should be and their important role in American society. 7. Big problems for everyone. The government's new plan, called the Compact, created many issues for universities and also for America's standing in the world. One big problem was for international students. The plan stated that universities could only have a small number of international undergraduate students. No more than 15% of all students could be from other countries. Also, no more than 5% could come from just one country. This rule would greatly affect students from countries like India and China, who often choose American universities. Many people worried that these limits would hurt America's global reputation. For a long time, the United States has been a top choice for smart students and researchers from all over the world. They come to study, do research, and work. If fewer international students can come, America might lose its leading position in global education and science. Other nations are already trying to attract these talented students. The Compact could make America less strong in important areas like research and new ideas. The government used strong methods to make universities agree to the plan. It had already stopped giving billions of dollars in research money to some schools. Now, it offered money and special treatment only to universities that signed the compact. This put a lot of pressure on schools to say yes. Losing federal money would mean losing funds for important research, student support, and keeping university buildings in good condition. It felt like the government was forcing universities to accept its rules by threatening their finances. However, many experts and legal scholars believed the government's plan was not lawful. They said it went against the rules of the American Constitution. For example, they thought it might break the First Amendment, which protects free speech. The compact wanted universities to control what was taught and said on campus, which could limit free thinking. Experts also said the plan gave too much power to government officials to decide about university money, without proper legal steps. They believed that if universities fought the compact in court, it would likely be found unconstitutional. This meant the plan might not last. It created big problems and big questions for everyone involved. 8. What happens next? The big fight between universities and the government is not only about money. It is about something much deeper. It asks what universities are for and what their place is in society. Are they places for free thinking, or should they follow government rules? This is a very important question for everyone in America. Universities face real problems. Many people are worried about how much college costs. There are also concerns about public trust in these schools. Some think universities have lost their way. They need to listen to these worries and make changes. But they must also be careful to keep their freedom. They must protect their right to teach and research without outside control. The decisions made now by universities will change American education for many years. It is a fight to keep the freedom to find and share truth. This freedom is key to what makes good universities. If universities lose their independence, it could hurt new discoveries and learning. MIT and Brown University showed that it is possible to say no to the government's plan. They chose to protect their values. But many other universities have not yet decided. They must think hard about what is most important. Will they also stand up for their independence, or will they agree to the new rules to get money? The future of American higher education depends on these choices. It will show if universities can stay true to their mission. It will show if they can be places where all ideas are welcome and where truth is always sought. What do you think? Should universities agree to the government's rules to get more money, or should they fight to keep their independence?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.